Hi everyone, it's Nicki here, and I am back, and I'm thrilled to be back to share another new release with you. March is a bit of a bumper release month for me, especially since one of the titles I was expecting to come out in February got pushed to March, so it's become a sort of huge 3-book release thing going on, which makes it a kind of busy month for me with all the promotion and other stuff that needs to happen. So today I'm going to record you a couple of videos. Forgive me if I'm a little bit frazzled because I only got 3.5 hours sleep last night. My husband had a late shift and then I had to get up at the crack of dawn to do an online radio broadcast, which was fantastic, but I'm starting to feel it now that we're moving into the afternoon. In any case, let me press on. So first of all, I'm going to talk to you about Souls for Sale. Now, Souls for Sale is an paranormal story. It features angels, demons, and the unfortunate human who's caught in the middle with both sides after his soul. That young man is called Tom, and he makes the, well, I was going to say makes the mistake, but of course it's not a mistake really, because, you know, destined to be together and all, but he falls in love with a demon named Saul, and chaos then ensues as heaven and hell fight it out over Tom's soul. This was a story, perhaps I should mention I've started doing this new release little tag thing where I just answer a few questions about each story, so I am working through those. I should see, this is what happens when you get 3.5 hours sleep. I should have mentioned that at the start. So that was my brief introduction to the story. Number 2, what inspired you to write this piece? For those of you who follow my writing, you'll probably recognise this story. It actually started life as a short story for an anthology call, and this is going back, gosh, to 2015, I believe. And the story call was for angels and demon stories. So the initial idea that came to me was the demons targeting the young guy to get his soul, but they end up falling in love. So that was the beginning. However, it kind of felt like there was more story there, and after the short story was published in the anthology, several people wanted to know what happened next. So I ended up writing a novella sequel called Hell to Pay. The short story was called 21st Century Demon. And when I sold the novella to my publisher, they combined them into Souls for Sale as a single book, but still distinctly a short story then a novella. That publisher sadly closed less than a year after the book came out, and I got my rights back. So I decided to rework it, turn it from these 2 separate pieces into a single novel-length story, and I then submitted that to 9 Star Press, who thankfully loved it and wanted to publish it. So this is the new version that's coming out now. So the initial inspiration was a prompt, but the story developed from there. What are the main themes? I guess the idea of the line between good and evil, you know, who's bad, who's good, and at what point do you cross that line? For Saul in particular, that's a question. He's a demon, but when he falls in love with Tom, that changes his outlook and how he wants to go about doing things, which eventually has ramifications for him further down the line during the story. So I guess that, and the idea of redemption tied in with that as well. 4, introduce your main characters. Well, I've kind of done this already. Obviously we've got Saul. He's a demon. He has been for quite a few centuries. He's pretty cocky, sure of himself, lad about town kind of guy. Meanwhile, Tom is a comic book nerd. He designs comics, and he's a typical, you know, loves his films, loves Marvel, DC, and, you know, he doesn't really have that much of a social life. He's a bit of a loner because of his interests, and so when he meets Saul, Saul completely blows him away that there's, you know, there's this absolutely fantastic hot guy who's suddenly interested in him. And they both develop as the story progresses, and they both learn a bit more about themselves and about each other and about the sort of people they want to be. 5, what was your favourite thing about writing this story? For me, it was finding Saul's voice. This is a first-person work, essentially. We hear from Saul, Tom, and an angel, Baruchiel. Baruchiel is written in the 3rd person, but Tom and Saul speak directly to us as first person, sometimes breaking the 4th wall. Saul in particular likes to address the reader. and writing his voice was just absolute wonderful fun. I loved every minute I spent with him. 6. What difficulties did you encounter? For me, the difficulties probably come in doing this revision, and I wanted to just make it one whole story and not have these two separate entities as such. And that meant going back to the short story and doing not rewrites but additions. It was only Saul's perspective in the original short story, and Tom and Baruchiel didn't come until the novella. But I wanted to introduce Tom earlier. If it was going to be a cohesive single book, I needed to have that other point of view in right from the start, with just Baruchiel entering a little later. So I had to think about inserting Tom's feelings into that short story, but in a way that didn't feel like I was just filling in a word count, if you see what I mean. It needed to make sense. So that was probably the biggest challenge, in making sure that everything flowed and that I got that nice transition so that it didn't feel like a short story and a novella anymore. And finally, where can readers find your book? Obviously, Nine Star Press's website. You can get all formats there. And it's also all, of course, available from all the usual places, Amazon, Kobo and the like. So I will put a little link in the video to my blog post. Because I post the video ahead of the blog post going up, I might have to come back and put that link in later. It's all a bit of a pain when you need links for one thing before you can publish the other one. So if it's not there immediately when you watch this video, bear with me, it will appear. Or if not, just go straight to my blog, nickijmarkus.com, and you will find all the info there. So without any further ado, let me just read you a very quick excerpt from the opening of the story. It's tough being a demon in this day and age. Times are hard and souls just aren't what they used to be. I should know. It's my job to collect them. Or try to, anyway. What I wouldn't give to go back to the good old days when you could buy a soul as easily as an apple at the marketplace. And I mean a proper apple, plucked straight from the tree that morning. None of this modified, refrigerated crap that passes as fresh fruit nowadays. I know what you're thinking. Trust me, I've heard it all before. You're wondering how it could be so hard to get someone to sign away their soul in an age when everything can be obtained for a price, when everything is for sale. Actors, bankers, politicians, you'd think rich pickings, am I right? Well, you'd be wrong. The problem is that no one believes anymore. Picture this. I walk up to someone and offer to grant them anything their heart desires in exchange for their soul. Now, in times past, they'd either tremble in fear and drop to their knees, praying to the guy upstairs, "Mike, you to leave," or they'd tremble in fear for a moment and then sign on the dotted line. Simple. Everyone knew where they stood. But if I were to try that today, most people would laugh in my face and walk off, or else they'd look uneasy and slink away from the deranged lunatic as soon as possible. Hell, I miss the fear. The faith is gone, you see, supplanted with technology, gizmos and gadgets. An age of information. Everything you want obtainable at the press of a button. What is there to long for anymore? What is there worth selling your soul for that you couldn't get another way? Sure, you still have the old standards, the favourites, riches, power and sex. But as I said, the belief is sadly lacking. Every passing year it gets harder and harder to fill my quota. I have the boss breathing fire down my neck, both metaphorically and literally, and damned if I know how to get around the problem. It's not just me. My colleagues are equally exasperated. It won't be too much longer until it's impossible to sign up even one new soul to burn in everlasting hell. Then what's a conscientious, hard-working demon to do? I hope you enjoyed that, and as I said, visit my blog if you want any more information on where you can grab a copy of your book. And that was Souls for Sale by Asteroidonia. Thanks very much, guys. I'll see you next time.